Conflict arises from a fundamental error in perception. We enter a disagreement believing that our perspective is the only truth or reality, and the other person's is flawed. This is the ego's primary operating principle. From this standpoint, conflict is not only a misunderstanding, it is a threat. Neurologically, when we feel that our position is attacked, our brain triggers a threat response. Cortisol and adrenaline flood our system. The brain's capacity for empathy, nuance, and higher order thinking literally shuts down. We find ourselves in survival mode. In this state, we're not communicating, we're defending our identity, which has become fused with our opinion. The purpose is no longer to find a solution, but to ensure the survival of our viewpoint. This is a closed loop, destined for repetition and disconnection. The intervention for this state is not a better argument, it is curiosity. Curiosity is not only a personality trait, it is a conscious shift from a state of defending to a state of discovering. It is the application of presence in a moment of reactivity. When you deploy genuine curiosity, two things happen. For the other person, an open-ended question, free from accusation, signals safety. Questions like, what is your understanding of the situation? Or, what core needs of yours is not being met right now? Or, help me see this from your perspective. These questions bypass their defense mechanisms. You're not attacking their position. You're validating their right to have one. This helps de-escalate their threat response and allows the rational mind to re-engage. Second, this is an act of spiritual discipline for you. To be truly curious, you must accept a fundamental truth. Your subjective reality is not the only one. You must be willing to let go of your attachment to being right in order to see what is true for the other person. This is an exercise in humility and non-attachment. It is a moment of ego transcendence. Curiosity is a tool. Most conflicts are fought over symptoms, the specific action, the words that were said. The underlying cause is almost always an unmet universal human need. For example, the need for respect, for security, for acknowledgement, or autonomy. Our positions on an issue might seem irreconcilable. We say, you have to do X, and the other person defends themselves, I'll never do X. But our underlying needs are often identical or complementary. When we ask questions, we bypass the positional deadlock and get to a level of shared humanity. At this level, creative and collaborative solutions become possible. A win-win is not a compromise where both parties lose something. It is a synthesized solution born from mutual understanding, one that honors the core needs of both people. And this is not a simple technique, it is a practice. In the heat of a conflict, the ego will scream for you to defend yourself, to counterattack, to prove your point. The gravitational pull of your own righteousness is immense. To choose curiosity is to choose a higher state of awareness over a lower, reactive state. It requires our presence. Conflict presents a spiritual opportunity for us. It is a training ground for our ego. Each disagreement is a chance to practice detaching from your own story and bearing witness to another's, and listen. When handled this way, an argument ceases to be a destructive event and becomes a profound act of intimacy. It demonstrates that the relationship is resilient enough to contain two separate realities and strong enough to navigate the friction between them. Successfully navigating a conflict builds a reservoir of trust. It proves to both people that they can be honest, vulnerable, and even at odds. Yet the fundamental connection will not only survive, but deepen. This framework of connection requires a willing partner. So how do you know when it's time to walk away? This engagement becomes necessary when the interaction is no longer a conflict of perspectives, but has become something unproductive or even harmful. When your curiosity is not met with reflection, but a wall of dogma, or your open questions are consistently ignored or answered with personal attacks, it signals a lack of good faith. The other person is not interested in mutual understanding, they're interested only in broadcasting their position. You know when it's time to walk away when the goal shifts from resolution to harm. When the conversation turns to character assassination, contempt, or intentional emotional wounding, you're no longer in a disagreement. You're in an arena of abuse. Your primary responsibility in that moment is not to the conversation, but to your own safety and dignity. It's time to walk away when you recognize your own capacity for presence is gone. If you feel that your own brain is being hijacked, your body feels tense, and your mind races to build a case, you're no longer a force for resolution. Staying in a conversation will only add to reactivity. In this case, walking away is not an act of surrender, but of wisdom. It's a strategic pause. You can state it clearly and calmly. This is no longer productive. I need to take a break. We can talk about this later when we're both calmer. This preserves the possibility of a future resolution and protects the relationship from further damage. The goal is not to win an argument, but to transcend it. It's to use the friction of disagreement to dissolve any illusion of separation that we find ourselves in a conflict. Your task is not to convince the other person that you're right. Your task is to become intensely curious about the reality that they were experiencing. We can see if they can understand your world, or if you can understand their world, so that you can see what their position is about. This is the true path to resolution. It is the shift from me versus you to a shared objective exploration of us and what is. You don't just solve a problem, you transform the consciousness that created it.